Hi everybody, it's good to see you back again. It's Paula here from Craftables again, and we're just doing our card today. This one here. So if you have the kit, that's great. You can join along. If you don't have the kit, then you can just watch the video if you like, and then just try and find some bits and pieces at home that you can use. We do have the kits on our website for sale, and if anyone does want to buy one, and we can send them out as soon as we're able to from this quarantine. Okay, so that's our card, so I'll just pop it up there and we'll get started. So for those that have the kit, we have an A5 cardstock here that we just want to fold in half. So that's going to be our card base. Hi Cheryl and Shona and Jocelyn, it's lovely to see you. Thanks for joining us. Okay, so we also have this piece in our kit as well. So this one, for those that don't have the kit, this one I have just made it a wee bit smaller than the card front. So the measurement is about 3 3/4 by 5 1/2, and I've just embossed that with an embossing folder. So you get to see that beautiful embossed image there. So that one's just going to get stuck straight onto the front there with just normal double-sided tape. If you have glue, you can also use glue as well. Here we go. So we thought we'd have some background music this time, just to make it feel a wee bit more like class. So I hope you can hear it. So I'm going to go fairly slow so that everyone can keep up with me today. So that just goes on that card front there, just centering it as best you can there. There we go. Yes, Jocelyn, I can put aside a kit for you, no problem at all. It's good to see you back, Shona. Thanks for coming. Okay, so our next step now is this piece of red card here. So we actually want to cut that down so that it measures 3 3/4 by about 5. Okay, so we're going to cut that down to 3 3/4 by 5. My blade is so blunt, it's so fairy at the moment. Okay, so I'm just going to cut that fairy stuff off there, just so it doesn't look so messy. You won't have to do this if your blade is nice and sharp. Okay, so this piece is what's going to go there. So actually I might just cut that down a small amount, just so that we can see a bit more of this here. So let's just cut that down a little bit more. So what is that measurement? That's 3 3/4. So I might go to 3 5/8. Okay. Just cut that off again. My blade is very, very blunt, so excuse my mess on there. Okay, so that one's going to be a little bit smaller. That looks better. So that's 3 5/8 by 5 1/2. So that one's the red piece that we're going to do around here. So what I want to do with this stripe paper now is I want to make sure that the lines are going this way across. So what I'm going to do is just measure it so that we're going to make it a little bit smaller than this one. So if that's 3 5/8, we'll make this one. So we want them going that way, so we need to do it this way. Yeah. So 3 5/8. So I'm going to make it down to about 3 1/4 should be fine. So let's go to 3 1/4. I'm just going to cut that bit off there. Yeah. So if this was if our red piece was 5 1/2, I'm going to come back to 5 1/4, just so that it's not going to show past our red piece. Just cut that off there too. There we go. Okay. so that's our piece there. So I'm actually just going to stick that straight onto there like that. It looks like I might need to cut a wee bit more off there. That's okay, we can just cut that along there. All the measurements are in the instructions, so you don't need to worry too much about having to worry about that. So that's going to get stuck down on there. So just a bit of glue or tape. So we're just going to, I'm not stressing too much about what the tape looks like on the back, because as you know, we're not going to see it anyway. Okay, so that just goes on your red piece there. So what we want to do now is this piece of card in your kit is just going to, what I want to do is just cut right round where that border is, and then I want to cut out that circle, that oval in the middle. So to do that, I'm just going to grab my board, and I'm going to use a craft knife to go around that piece there, but if you want to, scissors is just fine as well. So you could start it off with your craft knife, because we don't need that middle piece in there. So now you can carry on with your scissors if you like. So just cut around that oval inside piece so that that stripy piece can show through the middle there. I'm just going to tidy up that a little bit there. There we go. So that oval's now cut out. There we go. So once you've done that oval piece, and just don't stress about taking too long. So we're just going to cut where you can see those lines around the outside now, because I want it to be a little bit, just a little bit smaller than our red cardstock. So I'm going to cut around the frame, and then if I need to, I'm just going to cut it a wee bit more as well, so that we can see that red frame around the outside. So we may have to cut this down a wee bit more, but we'll just have a look and see how much we need to cut it down. Let's have a look. Yep, so see how I've got a bit more on this side? What I'm going to do is cut a little bit off this side and that side, so it's an even piece in the middle. So we just cut that down a wee bit more. And just a little tip, when you're cutting something really thin on a trimmer, sometimes if you start at the top here, it's going to catch because you've only got such a tiny piece. So what I do is I tend to lift my blade up, bring it down, and then just go up and down so that you can get a really nice trim with a very small piece on there. Okay, let's see if that's going to fit a bit better now. No, I still need to cut a wee bit more off. So again, I'm just going to put my blade in the center and just go up and down like that. And I'm just going to even it up on this side. Right, now hopefully that should be a good size to go on this red piece. There we go, that's looking much, much better. Okay, so I'm actually going to pop this piece on over the top of this now. So I'm just going to get rid of my board so you can see what I'm doing. So I've just used normal tape on there, but glue is fine as well if you prefer glue. Glue's a bit faster if you want to try and keep up a bit more. I have to say this is the quietest my household has been in the last 3 days, so they're being very good being quiet for me. There we go. So that's the base, this base piece here that we've just done. Okay. Now, if you have a pokey tool, I'll just get you to poke little holes in the very corners here. So that's where we're going to put these little black brads in. Okay. If you don't have a pokey tool, just use your scissors if you need to just make a little hole like that. So I'm just going to pop the brad through the hole and split the pins on the back there like that. So I want you to do that on all 4 corners. Oopsie daisy. Here we go. So if I'm going too fast, please just let me know in the comments and I'll try and slow down a wee bit for you as well. So there we go. We have our 4 brads on each corner there. Okay. Now when you're ready, we're just going to put a bit of foam tape around the back of this red piece and we're going to pop it onto the card base here. So I like to do all 4 sides because if you just do a strip on the sides there, you tend to find this middle bit tends to sink a little bit in the middle, and we don't want that. So I always tend to put tape, foam tape. It does use up a bit of foam tape, but at least you know it's not going to sag in the middle. Okay, so we're going to pop that piece onto our card base now. Here we go, so just right in the center there. Lovely. Well done, guys. Right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to colour in these flowers now. So in your kit, if you have the kit, you will have these heartfelt poppy flowers that we've cut out and stamped for you. Now, if you do have a red stamp pad, I'm using the Memento Ladybug, that way there. So I'm using that and a finger dauber. But if you don't have that, you could just use a red pencil. So I'll do one colouring in with the pencil and the rest of them I'll do with the finger dauber. If you don't have the ink, you can still do it with your red pencil, okay? So we'll just do this. Now when I colour in with a pencil, I tend to make it very dark on all the little black strips that we've got there. So this is just way I like to do it, but you can colour in any way you like. And then I just colour the entire thing really lightly with the red over the entire petal there. So just a really light colouring there. And then what I like to do is I like to come from the bottom and then just do slightly darker red flicks so that we can blend a little bit. Okay, so that gives you a really nice sort of blending look. Okay, just like that. There we go. So if you're using pencils, just carry on doing that with all your flowers. So I'm actually just going to let you listen to the music while we all colour in, and just hopefully you can relax a little bit. If you're using the ink pad and a finger dauber, you just need to get some ink on to there. And you might need just a little bit of scrap paper so you don't get it all over your table. And I just start with just really lightly inking the whole thing, so each petal. So using a finger dauber and the ink pad is a lot quicker, but if you don't have it, just colour them in. And then I'm just going to get a bit more ink on my finger dauber, and then I'm just going to go a bit harder in the center, but I'm going to miss that top piece there so that you end up with just a really light colouring there. just along the top is really light, and then down the bottom here is going to be a bit darker. So if you guys want to go ahead and do your colouring in, we'll come back in about 5 minutes, see how you're going. So I'm just going to carry on colouring in as well. So I'll do that with the pencil so that I don't have two different colours. I hope everybody's doing okay in their quarantine, and I do get really worried about everybody because I know how much we all like to socialise, and we're not used to isolation this day and age. So it's really important we all stay in touch. And don't forget, we have our craft communities page now, so you can post anything you like on there. It does not have to be craft related. So you could do little posts or photos or videos of what you're doing in quarantine. It's just, we've just made that page there so that we can all stay contacted and we can all stay connected and just talk to each other if we need to. So please use it. You just go onto Facebook and type in craft communities, and it should come up with that. So that's Craftables and communities together, so that we can all just stay contacted. Please post on there because we'd all love to see how everybody's doing. The pencils I'm using are actually Faber-Castell, but that's just because they're the only ones I've got at home at the moment. But I do really like the Kaiser Craft pencils. They are really good, and you can get really good color combinations in there. Okay, so that's my first poppy all coloured in with pencil. So I'm just going to carry on with the ink pad now. So you only actually need to do two petals. What have we got? No, we need 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we need the two biggest ones, and we need the two smaller ones. So these really tiny ones, you actually don't need to colour those in. So we'll forget those for now so we can carry on with this. The redder your poppies are, the better they're going to come out too. So don't be afraid to get some real good colour on there. Yeah, I got to say, Jocelyn, Mike is really dropping the ball today. He is not doing a good job. I haven't even been offered a coffee. It's very hard to find good help these days. You can go around the edges too with a bit of the darker colour if you want, just to give it a bit more colour on there as well. So I am going to ink around the outside there just to give it a bit more colour and get rid of those white marks if you've got any white edges around there. Well, Jocelyn, you're not here to put him in his place, so we're going to have to deal with him. There we go. So I will show you how to shape the poppies. There is a shaping mold for the poppies, but I'm not using that today just because it's a lot of people will not have it. So I just want you to be able to see that you can do this stuff without all that fancy bits and pieces as well. So make sure you got lots and lots of colour on there just so they're nice and bright. There we go. Now I've finished my 4 there. So if you just need a wee bit more time to carry on, you just carry on, and we'll just listen to some music while you're crafting away there. Oh, that's a good point too, Yolang, that you can flatten the back of those brads with a ruler. So instead of using your fingernails to get in there, you could just use your ruler to split down into those little pins and then spread them with the ruler. That's a great idea, Yolene. Thank you very much. So I'll just let you colour in for a wee bit longer. So for when you've finished your colouring, you will need a stylus, which is one of these. So you've got the ball on the end there, like that. So you will need one of those, and you will need a foam mat. So this is actually just a cut up piece of a mouse pad, which you can buy at $2 shops still. So I've just cut it into a little square, and this is what I use to do all my moulding with. So those two things you'll need. So just carry on colouring in, we'll catch up in a moment. Okay, if you're not quite finished, don't worry, we'll just carry on with colouring in between the gaps and pieces. So with the four petals you've got, what I like to do is just get a spritz bottle of water in it, and we just lightly spritz some water on there. So what that does is it's a little bit more supple to be able to mould it with. So if you just pop that onto your foam mat and just grab your stylus. Stylus ball is the better one to use. We're just going to do little lines coming from the center out to the middle there. So start from the center, and then we're just going to push our stylus ball all the way out to the ends there. So don't be shy about it, get really in there and give it a really good push down. Fibers in those papers broken so that they start to cup up like we've done there. Okay, and then just push really hard, nice and hard around the edges there, just to get those little petals curling over a little bit there. Okay, so just carry on doing that. So you can do that with all 4 of your petals. If your ball on your stylus tends to get a little bit stuck or it's a little bit scratchy, I just either rub the ball of the stylus into some soap or into some candle wax, and that tends to make it a lot more smooth to be able to get around on that paper, because sometimes it can get a little bit stuck and it can get a little bit scratchy. So if you've got soap, candle wax does work the best, so I often use that for my styluses. So just go around the edges again just to cup up those little outside bits there. So you will have those marks on there, which is exactly what we want. We want to have those stripy marks because the petals of a poppy do have that on there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to push right down at the center in the base of those petals now, like that. Okay, so if you can see, it started to cup up a little bit there. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is on these petals, each petal, I'm going to pinch them together. Okay, so we're just pinching those top petals there. Hi Cheryl, we're just using the 240 GSM A4 white cardstock that we sell at Craftables. Okay, so see how that's all wrinkled up there now, and that one's a bit smoother. So we're just going to pinch all those petals just at the top there. If it's getting a wee bit dry, just give it another little squirt with some water. There we go. So if you want to carry on doing that around all of the petals plus the ones on these three here as well. So once I've done all those little ruffles along the edge there, I'm just going to push my stylus in the center again just to make it cup up a bit more that way. I'm going to use the bigger ball for that so that we've got a bigger area, because we've got a bigger area. There we go. So once you've got it cupped up, you can just bend those petals back a little bit at the very top there, wrinkle them up a bit. Don't be too stressed about it. Just if you think about things too much, sometimes I find they get a little bit harder to deal with and we get a bit more stressed. So just bend the petal, the very tip of the petals back a little bit, and that just gives it a bit more like that. So when we come to glue this, the next one I put in is going to go that way, and I'm actually going to glue these petals to the back of these petals so they hold their shape a wee bit more. So that's one done there, and we're just going to carry on with the rest. There we go. So I've just done those stripes down from the base to the tip of the petals and just ran my stylus around that edge as well. So that one's sort of shaped a little bit now, so I'm just going to bring it back, use the bigger side of my ball, my stylus, and just pull those petals up a bit more. You can be quite rough on the paper. Just if you put too much water on, I just suggest that you dab it off a bit with a tissue, because if there's too much water on there, you will rip the paper. So you just need to do like a little spritz of water on there. So I'm just going to pinch all these corners, these tips up now. Again. Just peel them back a wee bit. So pinch the tips again. And I'm just going to turn them back a little bit so we've got a bit more dimension there. Okay, so we're just going to start do a bit more there just to get those petals cupped up again. So that's our second one there. So just carry on at your own speed, and then when we've got those done, we'll stick them all together. I hope it's going well, guys. I hope you're managing to get the petals done a bit. So I'm just using the big stylus side again in the middle. So I'm just going to pinch the petals together again. And just pinch those back. Hi Donna, welcome back to the class. Hope you're having a nice day. Okay, so I've now got my 4 done, so I'm just going to give you a few more moments to get yours done there. So to do our next step, you'll need your glue and your little bag of microbeads. So you'll need your little bag of microbeads and glue. So you might need a little pot also to be able to tip your microbeads into. So I'm just going to go and find one of those. I'll be right back. This is just the lid off one of my distress pads. Okay. All right, is everybody ready to carry on? Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to glue my 2 bigger ones together now. So I just want to put some of my glue in the center. And I'm just going to put a little bit down these sides as well, because we actually want the other flower that we're going to put on to stick up onto the petals of this first one. So our next biggest flower is now going to go slightly off center. And I'm just going to pull all these up and just hold it there until the glue starts to stick. Okay. If you need to, just put a bit more glue on the back of these ones so they stick to those petals at the back there. Like that. So we just want all those petals to stick together. So you might have to hold it for a few seconds until that glue dries a little bit. Ooh, a hot chip sandwich. That sounds amazing. Okay. So once that glue is dried a little bit, I'm just going to put a little bit more here so that we can really stick that to that piece there. So right on there. So sticking it to the back petals here is actually helping hold its shape a little bit more. If you need to, just run your stylus around in the middle again to just pull those up a little bit. Okay, so we want to do the same thing with our 2 smaller ones now. So just off center it a little bit. I'm just going to put a little bit of glue behind these so it sticks to the petals behind as well. Just pull it up so it's in a cup. So a little bit more behind there. You make me want a hot chip sandwich now, Donna. I haven't had lunch yet, so I'm hungry. Okay, so there's our next poppy there. Now, as you can see, this one hasn't actually folded up to as well as I'd hoped to, so that glue's taking a bit longer to dry than I was hoping to. So just give that a moment or two to dry there. So while we're waiting for that to dry, you will have a stamped image of the other poppy there. If you don't have any poppies or flowers that you can cut out and do stuff like this with, just put a normal flower on. So any material flowers or paper flowers that are already made up, you could just pop those on. You don't need to do all this. So we're actually going to colour this in now. So that's actually going to be the background underneath of our poppies. So I've just used one green pencil. So I've just used one green pencil and I've used my other red pencil that we were using before. So if I'm going to go ahead and colour that in, we're actually going to have to cut that one out because I've lost the die for that one. So sorry about that, guys. So if you go ahead and colour that in if anyone's waiting to do something. Most of your flower on this poppy, these flower poppies, you're not actually going to see, so you don't need to be too fussy about your colouring for these. So this will probably take you a good couple of minutes to do, so we'll just have some quiet time and just colour in. It sounds delicious, Donna. I think that's might be what my lot will be getting for dinner tonight. I'm so glad the sun is out today. I got a little bit of cabin fever yesterday when it was raining. I'm not used to being at home. I'm usually always at work. So don't forget to like our Craft Amenities page, and you guys we can all stay in contact with each other through that. Please post anything that you're doing, even if it's just hanging out the washing, because a lot of us want to see how everybody else is coping with this quarantine, and it's just nice to feel like you're not alone. So please use the Craft Amenities page to just post anything, ask questions, anything you like. It's not just for crafts, it can be for anything you want to put on there. I'm getting my family to post on Messenger. I'm getting my family to post little videos every day so that we can see each other still. And it's been really great, actually. It's been really nice seeing what the girls are up to. And even though Mum lives with us, we also get to see what she's up to as well. We're going to do a little scavenger hunt for Jaden tomorrow. So I'm going to get a list of bits and pieces he has to go outside and find. And then if he's really good, he finds them all, we're going to buy him a little game that he can play. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be good fun. And it gets you very creative about trying to find stuff to do. So even if you've got little tips that you want to share, so I'm going to go onto my green now. So for the same thing with the flowers, I like to do all the black parts quite dark. So I'm just randomly just colouring quite dark on some of those little black lines there. And then I'm just going to lightly colour the rest of it in, and then you can flick out and make it a bit darker in areas, shade it a bit more. Don't worry if you go over the lines, because we're actually going to cut this out later, so don't stress. Does anybody else do any colouring in for relaxation? I know that it was a big thing for a while, the adult colouring, and now it sort of seems to have died off a little bit. So if you do adult colouring, we'd love to see what you've done. I would really love to see what you've done, because I actually find colouring quite relaxing, but don't often get a lot of time to do it. So if you want to post what you've been doing with colouring, if any of you have got diamond art, post that up too. We'd love to see it. We really, really would. It's going to take you a little while, so we'll just, if you've finished colouring, just start cutting out the flower now. I'm just going to darken up my flower a little bit there. You're not going to see a lot of this flower underneath anyway, so don't stress too much about your colouring in for this bit. Okay. Here we go. Now I've finished my colouring in, but you carry on if you need to. I'm just going to cut my flower out now. So that's what we're going to end up doing now, is cutting this piece out here. When I cut out, I tend to like to have a little white border around mine, but that's not always possible, so you just cut it out however you like. For those that don't do a lot of cutting out, I tend to get my paper right up inside, right up against the edge of my scissors there, and then you can move your paper rather than your scissors when you're cutting, and you're slowly pushing your scissors down, so that actually helps you have very smooth outside edges. So I'm just going to do that now. Oh, good, Shina. I'm so glad that you do colouring. I find it really relaxing. I love it. Love to see some of your finished work if you've got any. So I'm just cutting around there with a little bit of a white edge around there. But you can cut close to your picture if you want to. Some people find it easier to cut close to the picture. If anyone does do colouring out there, and you too, Shona, if you've got some tips and ideas about how to do it, post a video or a little comment on how to do some different techniques. That would be awesome. Cut that bit off so you can see what I'm doing a bit better. Don't stress too much about your fussy cutting, because I mean, to us, we'll notice the little bits that we've done a bit wrong, but other people will never notice. And I know some people hate fussy cutting and they just don't enjoy it. So that's fine. If you don't like fussy cutting, leave it for 4 weeks and I'll do it for you. So just notice the way I'm cutting, I'm actually using my hands to move the paper rather than the scissors, and you actually do get a much better cut line. It's not so jagged and scratchy. Don't forget, we do have these kits online if anyone would like to buy one, and you can go back over this video later on to put it together if you want to do that, and we'll send them out as soon as we're able to. Okay, so I've cut around the outside of that now, but I do want to cut all this bit in here out. So what I'm going to do is come up into here and just carry on cutting around. So just be careful you don't bend these little stalks too much. I know it's a bit tricky. I'm using the Tim Holtz 5-inch scissors here, and they are really, really great for fussy cutting. So you can get the ones with the edging on there, with the, oh, what do we call that? The jagged edging on there, which helps them to stay sharp for longer. But you can also get the flat ones as well. So the flat ones are actually the better ones to do for fussy cutting. Nearly there, guys. You're doing so well. Thanks for sticking through it. Okay. Now, if you want to, if I wanted to cut these little bits out as well, so I just used a craft knife to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. If you don't want to do that bit, don't do it. It's really not a problem. It just gives you a little bit more of that stripy paper coming through that flower there, that's all. So it's totally up to you. If you want to do that, you can go ahead and do that when you finish your cutting. I'm going to do that. So I'm just going to get my craft board and my craft knife, and I'm just going to cut just a little bit on the inside of these pieces, of these stalks. Doesn't even have to be much. And I'm also just going to cut around this bit here a little bit as well. That's just because I went over the lines a little bit there. But you don't have to do this bit if you're not up to it. There we go. There we are. So I've just cut out those little bits there. Great. Okay, so if you're ready, we're just going to put this piece here. I'm just going to put a bit of glue on the back of this, or tape, whichever you prefer. I'm going to do glue on this one because we've got these very thin stalks here that we need to get some on there. So that one's I'm going to glue this one down. go. So I'm just going to bring my card back. Serrated, thank you, that's the word I needed. These ones have a serrated edge on them, whereas the other ones are just straight. Okay, so we're just going to pop that down on the corner here. Just stick that down. There we go. Okay. Now what I'm going to do before I stick my poppies on, I'm just going to put a bit of glue in the middle, and I want to sprinkle in some of these little micro beads that you'll have in your kit there. So I've just got a lid from one of my distress inks, and I'm just going to tip them into there. So just a little bit of glue in the middle, pop it into there. Just roll them around a bit to get them onto your, there we go. Now don't stress if you can see some of the white glue coming through, because as soon as that dries it's all going to go black, so don't worry about that at all. If you want to, you can put a few more beads on there a bit later with a bit more glue if you want. So I'm just going to pop some more into this one as well, so a bit of glue down the bottom there. And I'm just going to tip the rest of my micro beads on there. There we are. So that's the inside of our little flowers there. So just don't worry about that white. If you want to, just put a bit more glue over the top and put a bit more of the micro beads on there. Okay, so now we're just going to glue them onto these two poppies here. So this bigger one's going to go on there, and this one's just going to go on the top there. So see how we're not seeing much of that colouring underneath at all, so don't stress too much about that at all. My petal here is not what I'm happy with, so I'm actually going to glue that up on each other again. So I'm just going to glue that a bit more because it's just sort of flattening out a wee bit. So I'm just going to hold that in the glue for a little bit. And I'm going to put a bit more glue on the back of this one as well. So I'm just going to hold those there for a moment. Yeah, I got to say, Yolande, they did go for miles, some of them, so we ended up with micro beads everywhere on the table the other day. And I do want to give a shout out to my mum. She has spent so much time stamping and cutting out all these poppies for everybody. She does such a great job with the kits, and I'm so grateful to her work that she does. So thank you, Mum. Okay, so I'm a bit happier with that now, so I'm just going to glue these down onto my card. There we go. So now we have our poppies on our card. And you're nearly done, everybody. You're doing so well. Now, the last little thing I just wanted to show you is I wanted to put a little bit of glitter. So you do have some glitter in a bag that we've given you in the kit. I've just got a very plain sponge that I've cut into a wedge. I'm just going to put a little bit of glue onto my sponge. So sort of spread it out a little bit. Like that. And now I'm just going to dab it onto my petals. And that gives you sort of, instead of a clump of glue, it's going to give you some spread out bits there. So I'm just going to hold that still so I can grab some. Actually, probably would have been a better idea doing this before we popped it onto our card, but never mind. We live and learn. So I'm just going to sprinkle some of the glitter over the top of that now. There we go. So now we've got a bit of glitter on our petals. Okay, so I'm just going to put a bit more onto this petal here. So I'm just going to add a wee bit more glue. So what the sponge does is it just helps us to spread the glue out a little bit instead of it being all in one big line or clump there. There we go. So I'm just going to sprinkle some more glitter on there. There we are. So we have a bit of sparkle on the petals now. Don't know if you can see it there. So once that white glue dries, you'll just see a nice shimmer of sparkle like we have on this one here. So you can just see that shimmer on there. Okay, so the last thing we need to do now is we're just going to cut out our happy birthday. So in your kit, you'll have one of these. Now I just did this on my computer, so I just went into Word, I just did a red box and did some white writing in there. So you could do that on yours as well. So I'm just going to cut that out right up against that red line. There we go. So I'm just going to put a little bit of foam tape on the back of that one. I don't have any 6mm tape with me, so I'm just going to cut my 12mm in half. So I'm just going to pop that onto the back there. And now I'm just going to pop that on the card. And we are all done. Beautiful. Well done, everybody. I hope you had fun doing it, and hopefully I've given you a few little tips along the way of different things you can do, especially when you're just cutting a very small piece off on your cardstock. If you're using a trimmer, bring your blade halfway down and then just trim up and down, and that just gives you a lot better cut there, so it doesn't scrunch up. Okay, so that's our card. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I'm so grateful that you all joined us today. It's been amazing. I'm going to go off and have some lunch now. And that hot chip sandwich sounds amazing, Donna, so I won't be having that for dinner tonight. Thank you so much, everyone, and please don't forget to come and join us on our Craft Communities page so that we can just stay in contact with everyone. Stay safe, everyone, and thank you so much. Bye.